let's talk deferrals. Your typical college applicant will usually be aware of the two most common responses to an application. Those are admit to the school or deny from the school. But one of the lesser known and lesser understood decisions that a student can get on their application is a deferral. Now, deferrals can be really confusing, and I got a lot of questions on these when I worked in admissions, and I want to help clarify this for some of you guys because I think it's going to be really helpful to understand. For those of you who are not familiar with me yet, my name is Jackson Walker, and I used to work as an admissions representative at the University of Wisconsin. In that role, I helped students from across the world apply to and get accepted to the university, and along the way, I picked up a couple helpful tips as well. So the biggest question I think I got during my time in the Office of Admissions is, what is a deferral? What does it mean for me? If you imagine a stoplight, your admit is your green light, your deny is your red light, a defer is very much a yellow light. We like to tell students that a deferral is a good thing because it absolutely is. It means that the admissions officers, for whatever reason, saw something in you that they thought you could be successful at their school, but they still want to learn a little bit more information about you before giving you that final acceptance. A deferred decision is not the same as being placed on the wait list, because the wait list, at least how it worked for us, that was the result of the final application period, which was the regular action. If you got placed on the wait list, that wasn't a great sign. Usually there's only about a 2 or 3% acceptance rate off of that wait list, but a deferral has a lot better odds of getting accepted to the school. And it shouldn't discourage you if you get a deferral. I know some people really want to get that acceptance and they kind of look at it as a defeat, but think of it as almost a backdoor entrance to the school. And it's still a very valid way to get in. When I was in school, I knew plenty of people who got deferred and still ended up going to the school anyways. Now, why do schools defer people? The simple answer is it's a numbers game. Like we talked about in my last video about acceptance rates, colleges have to manage the amount of people that they can accept to the school. And ideally, everyone who gets accepted to the school would take that offer of admission, but they know that that doesn't happen. So people on these defer lists are almost kind of on standby in a way. Say, for example, I have 100 people I want to accept into my school. I issue 100 acceptances. Out of those people, the universities will usually know what percentage of those individuals will say yes and which individuals will decline. Depending on how many spots open up out of those 100 people that decide to walk away, that's when they start drawing from that deferred list. A deferral is not a defeat. I want to impress that on you guys because it is an opportunity to shine and to show the admissions representatives that you belong at the school. It is still an opportunity to prove yourself to the admissions representatives at the school, just like you did during the application process, but you may have to come up with a little extra information along the way. So what should I do once I get my deferred decision? Well, that's a complicated question because it's going to depend on the individual. The first step, probably the most helpful step, is just to be honest with yourself. Go through your application, look at your essay, look at your grades, look at all those things, and figure out where some of those weaknesses may be. Maybe you didn't spend a whole lot of time on your essay, or maybe it was kind of weak. Maybe you have a couple poor grades that you need to get up. Maybe certain aspects of your application just weren't quite up to par, but you're still on a level playing field with a lot of the other applicants. Once you kind of take a deep and honest reflection on your application, it's time to take some action. Typically, when a school defers you, they will send you a letter, often kind of explaining what the deferred decision means and also giving you some steps moving forward. I know at UW, we would sometimes ask students to submit other materials, like an update throughout their senior year on their grades. And we didn't tell them they had to, but we kind of opened the door. We're like, if you wanted to send us what we call a supplemental essay, you can do that as well. And that is a huge key tip for you guys. If at all you can send any materials to the school, you absolutely should do that. You should inundate them with extra materials about your senior year. Now, an important distinction is that these should be important things. This shouldn't just be fluff, just to pad the amount of documents you're sending. But I think it's very reasonable, firstly, to send in a supplemental essay. So supplemental essay can kind of just be a open-ended kind of essay explaining to the admissions representatives, where you're at in this application process, considering this deferral. This shouldn't be a very lengthy essay. It should be about the length of your application essay, which I believe a lot of schools cap at about 800 words, more or less. And it should just be a very honest reflection of where you're at this time. Something along the lines of, I read your deferral letter And although it was a little bit discouraging, I feel strongly that I still belong at the school. Here are the steps that I'm taking to improve. Here are the things that I hope you'll be able to see from me by the time you make this application decision again. An essay like that will go a long way, even if they don't end up reading that essay, which I'm pretty certain they will upon the second round of reviews. But even if that essay goes unread, it's still a pretty significant thing to see that this student is engaged in the application process and they want to attend school here. Sending in that supplemental essay, absolutely a good thing to do. The second thing that I would recommend that you guys do upon receiving a deferral decision is look at your letters of recommendation. Now, a lot of schools will require the letters of recommendation, but now might be a good time to maybe send in another one. Again, we don't want to absolutely, send in way too many, 5, 6, 7 letters. I think at UW how we did it is we would require 2 letters of rec upon application. I think we would accept a third, and then everything over 3 we kind of didn't really look at a ton. It's going to depend on your individual school, on your individual circumstances, but another letter of recommendation really would go a long way, especially if the teacher was addressing this deferred decision. Both this letter of recommendation and the essay can kind of revolve around times where you dealt with setbacks and you persevered through difficulty, because that is essentially what a deferral decision is. It's a setback, a temporary setback. What you are trying to do is to illustrate to these people that this setback will not stop me. It's gonna, only embolden me to work harder. Finally, I think it's important to make sure you send plenty of updates to the school. Every quarter when you get your new grades, send those grades in an email. Tell them in the email, here are the changes I've made. Here are some of the classes. Maybe I decided to drop a course I wasn't doing so well in. Maybe I took some time away from extracurriculars to focus more on my grades. All of these different changes that happen. It's also really important too if you get any accolades, any sort of awards, any kind of recognition from your high school, anything like that, send that in to those admissions officers, because that is going to show that you are continuing to push through this adversity and you're still being recognized for the good work that you do as a student. The biggest thing by far that I just want to impress on you guys is that a defer is not a bad thing. It's a good thing because it means that you are still a strong applicant to the school. I really hope that you guys will see this as an opportunity to prove yourself. I'd love to hear from you. Were you deferred? What happened? Did you get accepted in the end? Did it motivate you to work harder? Did you end up switching schools? Tell me your story down below. I want to hear all about it, and maybe it'll even make it into a video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.